Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Here is a gathering to talk about the nostalgia and all the underlying emotions that come with it. In Rains, Nostalgia, Betrayal and Romance, we have with us Mr. Jayant Kripalani. Welcome, sir. He is an Indian film, television, and stage actor and director. He is best known for his performances in television series such as Khandan, Mr. Ya Mrs. and Ji Mantri Ji. He is actively involved with theatre and continues to act on stage as well as on screen. In conversation with him, we have Madhuri Lyer, who is an author and an advertising copywriter. She is the author of the best-selling novel Manhattan Mango, for which she is scripting a Bollywood screenplay, and the Supermom Cookbook, a non-fiction title that introduces moms to the joy of healthy cooking. Please, sir, you may start the conversation. Ms. Koral Das Gupta will join you in a bit. She's on her way. Ladies and gentlemen, give them a big round of applause. Welcome, sir. So, Rains, Nostalgia, Betrayal and Romance, all for you to take.
Hello, can you hear me? Good. Looks like somebody has used this mic to bash somebody on the head with it. It's all sort of bent and seen better days, but as long as you can hear me, I suppose that's all right. Yes. While we are waiting for the moderator,
who's on her way? She's on her way.
Yeah, I'm sure we can say some nostalgic things about her. Is she for real, or is she a memory, or is she a dream? Where is she? That, I think, is a question that needs to be answered. But I think rather than, would you like to start off?
Well, our subjects today, we're going to talk about the monsoons and romance and nostalgia. So when we were having a little, pre-session talk, and Jen says to me, okay, I don't think I'll be doing the romance. Do you mind doing that one? So yeah, we're just going to have a nice open session, and I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun. What would you like to say about the monsoon? What do you think it was this year? Good, bad, ugly? How bad was it?
Well, I'm not too sure about the monsoons, but I have this. I used to have this intense passion for the rains. Nowadays, I'm not so sure. When I think of I used to stand in my flat in Bombay, which was on the 10th floor of a suburban building, and look wistfully out at the bay of the Arabian Sea. And wait for the monsoon to come sweeping across, and then look down, and the water would be waist level. And so I went off the monsoons very fast after that. Being romantic about the rains is not my cup of tea anymore. And if anything, the news items in the newspapers over the last few weeks about famous doctors falling into manholes and disappearing is anything to go by, then I, for one, am absolutely sure I'm not over enamored with that kind of weather.
Yeah. Okay, now I beg to differ, because I just love the monsoon, and whoever does, just put your hands up, please. Okay, I think this is a very Indian cultural thing. We just love our rains, which comes once a year. And
I have nothing against the rains. It's the aftermath of the rains.
It's the aftermath,
yes.
Okay. Interestingly, I've lived a lot in Canada too. And when I was living there for a period of time, and every time it rained, I would say, wow, there comes the rain. And they gave me this very strange look. It's like, is she for real? She really likes the rain, because out there they just want sunshine, right? So it goes to show it's all about where you're coming from. I mean, for a hot tropical country, when it rains, we love it. And in Canada, when it rains, they're like, oh, we want to see the sun. So it's interesting. And what we build around the rain is so fascinating. It has so much of, meaning and subtext, and you see it in novels, in movies, in poetry, in music. So it's a very interesting, cultural aspect, which I think is very unique to us when we talk about. It's not the rains we're talking about the monsoons actually, which is fascinating.
Have you seen that movie or read the book, Chasing the Monsoons?
No, I've not.
It's. I haven't had the fortune to actually read the book or to see the movie, but I have read chapters of the book, and sorry, my memory is all over the place. So I've forgotten the name of the gentleman who wrote the book, but he actually chased the monsoons across from when they came streaming in. Does anybody remember who the author was? Sorry? There you go. And it was some of his descriptions of the sweeping rains and the effect that they had, and the how the earth came alive, was absolutely fascinating. And yeah, I can understand why people like the rains and why they like the monsoons in our.
Yeah, but I can also understand why people don't. I mean, there is a flip side to it.
Yeah, ask somebody in Cherrapunji. I'm not too sure if they'd be over fond of the rains. 300 last year there were 311 days of rain in Cherrapunji, and not rain like, oh, isn't that pleasant? No, rain that is here. You can't see the tree behind it. That kind of rain.
So, now on the nostalgia, any nostalgia and rain moments that you can recall, which go back,
As I said, I can't get nostalgic about the rains. The two major instances in Bombay, one was I think in 2005, in July of 2005. Hey, I wasn't there, so I missed the whole thing. And then this last one again, I missed the whole thing. Yeah, rains, they're fun. But I don't remember, and I can't get nostalgic about rains, because for me it brings back my childhood memories. And I was in Calcutta during my childhood. And the place that I lived in, Chowringhee Lane, used to have pavement dwellers, and everything that they ate, drank, and regurgitated from both their orifices used to float by in the water, and it used to be a little. I can't get nostalgic about.
Let's not. Okay, so let's talk about other nostalgia. Jayant, what top of the mind? Like, okay, 70s is a decade I relate to. It was my college days, and it was a very different time and place. So, any interesting stuff that you want to talk about then?
I'd actually prepared a speech on nostalgia, but then I started crying when I read it.
Yeah, now that really calls for it to be shared, so please,
Only because it was so badly written, not because. For me, nostalgia is many little memories from. This time. I've shifted back. I've gone back to my old home in Calcutta, and I happened to be walking down Park Street, and walked into the Park Street post office. If there are any Calcuttans here, they'll know what the Park Street post office is. It isn't anymore the Park Street post office like it used to be. Gone are that old heavy wooden look, and there used to be these brass cages behind which gentlemen who'd seen better days still dispense their services. Now it's all flash, it's marble, it's red painted, but it still smells of that. I don't know, do any of you remember this green glutinous coagulated mass of snot that used to pass as glue? Do you remember that? Yeah. There's, it's still there. The smell of a post office has not changed. Thank God for that, And The other
It's
thing.
quite pungent. I recall it, absolutely.
Yeah, हम तो वो जब बच्चे थे तो we used to slip into the post office and steal a bit of that, put it on a bit of paper and rush out of there because it was the best damn thing to repair a torn kite. And you know, we were all sort of fanatic about kite flying. And of course they tore, but we didn't have funds that you went and bought 10 kites. You bought 2 kites and it lasted for about 8 to 10 days. Thank God for the post office and that lay. I think it was called lay. Yeah. The other thing that I missed on I don't know, I'm going to just refer to my notes over here because it was quite a, there was a, you know, the old parcels, the parcel section of a post office is something I remember with great love and affection. I don't know how that system worked at all, ever. Because there would be these people who'd come in to give their parcels to send, and then they'd get wrapped into this white cloth which the post office supplied, and they'd stitch it, and then using a wooden stick with a piece of cloth wrapped around it, they would dip it into a black thingy and then write the address which the person sending the parcel would tell them. And I swear to God, the address that was on the cardboard parcel was nothing like the one that went onto the cloth. It took on a life of its own, you know. And how the parcels ever reached anywhere is something that this time when I went there, everything was the same.
They still had parcels in white cloth?
Yep.
Wow,
absolutely.
okay.
But what really brought back memories were some of the names of the villages over there that were, or towns. There was a place called Rani Band. I never heard of Rani Band, and it brought back not brought back, it brought visions of a interesting place called Rani Band. I wonder what it's like. Ketugram was another one. Pandabeshwar. I don't know what it means, but it conjures up, perhaps orange-clad pandas walking around and telling your life story and telling your history to you. Then there was a place which was an absolute favorite, Chingra Golashol. I don't know what that is and I don't know what it means. Hi, Curl, please. Big hand for our moderator. And normally I would get annoyed, but I know she has a little boy who's probably still awake. She must have fallen asleep while trying to put him to bed. Anyway, welcome. And you okay? You're looking a bit, yeah. Oh.
Really sorry to everybody present here. I just got caught up in a very bad traffic, and
Okay.
sorry is all that I have to say.
Forgiven. And there was one parcel that I saw which intrigued me. I mean, you recognize the place. It's close to here. The parcel was going to a place called Bhosri. And I thought of the conversation that might have taken place. Arey, ye kahan ka parcel hai? Ye Bhosri ka parcel hai, So these are things that these are things that will soon. These things will be. Those were memories, and these are things that will become new memories. I think. Yeah.
So something else more interesting.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The nostalgia trip.
Can I stay in the post office, or do I need to get out of the post office?
You can be where you want. Time and place. Is it really?
I have you. No, my family will back me up on this. I walked up to the window and I said, since I'm here, I'm a bit tired of emailing and SMSing and WhatsApping and things. I said, I'm going to start writing letters again. I love the thought of a gentle, elegant letter in cursive writing, one alphabet merging into the next, There's probably a WhatsApp coming. God, I could kill him. And things like that. But so I thought, I'm going to write a letter to my son, who's an SMS WhatsApp person. Of course, he writes too, but I felt I'd write him a postcard. And I went to buy one, and this man behind the counter looked at me like I was some fossil, and I was, who walked in there to get this postcard. And I said, what have you got? He said, I've got one postcard, or two postcards and one inland letter. I said, I want an envelope. He said, no. I said, what do you mean? He said, this is all I have. You want it? Take it. So I think I bought the last remnants of the Indian postal system that afternoon from Park Street Post Office. And so I wrote this letter. This is January of this year. I wrote this letter, postcard to my son, thinking he'd be surprised when he gets it. And waited for a reply, didn't get. I was getting more and more annoyed. 8 months later, in August, I got a WhatsApp. Of course, it had to be a WhatsApp. Saying, hey, Pops, just got your postcard. So, I guess it's the postcard in the inland letter, it's said, has had its time, at least in urban India. I'm assuming that those 100,000 villages that we've just learned have been electrified have their computers and their email services, if they have the electricity.
Yeah, I'll just quickly, just add to what he was saying on nostalgia, talking about cursive writing, right? So in school, back in the day when we didn't have the tablet and the computer and the what have you, but we had like notebooks covered with brown paper with double lines and a pencil and a rubber. And if you were fancy, you had a nylon rubber, maybe from Singapore or Hong Kong, with your name, with your initial on it, right? So if I was Madhuri, I wanted an M. If not, if I didn't have the budget, I would have that little rubber which left a mark on my page, but that's neither here nor there. So that was what we had. I still remember grade 2, grade 3, you started your day in school writing the date on the right hand top, the date, and then you started your work with the title, and then you started your cursive writing, whatever it was, a little essay or a piece or whatever. And then as you started on second line, the pencil point broke. So you took out the sharpener. And then, you had this lovely black suit all over your hands and your clothes, but that was okay. You just continued. You sharpened and you continued, and you sharpened and you continued, and life went on, So now when I look at the kids, and I'm like, wow, just for a day, I would like them to do it. It teaches you patience. I tell you, it really teaches you patience, where you have to sit and do pages of writing with a pencil and a rubber, It's something.
Okay. So, with apologies once again, I'll start this. Nostalgia and the kind of things that happens to us or happen to us is always, it leaves an impression. I have been in Mumbai for about, is it audible now? Yeah. I have been in Mumbai for about 10 years now. And the best memories that I have of Mumbai is with the auto guys. Usually I ditch my car and take the auto. And this particular journey with the auto guys started way back when one of the days I was coming from Warsaw to Malad. And I'm very bad with directions. And this auto guy was just steering zup zap zim zam. So at one moment I asked the guy that, "Bhaiya, aapko rasta malum hai?" He said, "Rasta kaise nahi malum hoga, madam? Rasta hi to hamara hai. Varna manzil to sawari ka hota hai." This came from an auto guy. So when it comes to nostalgia, probably all of us have a lot to pour. So I'll start with you, sir, that your book has a very strong premise in Calcutta. Kolkata now, but probably your book is about Calcutta. And there are quite some typical things that Calcutta offers, both humorously and otherwise. So, Bengalis are known to start late, reach late, do everything late. Would you have something to say about that?
I would agree with you that this was something. I'm not going to be funny about this because I suddenly had a thought that one of the reasons I left Calcutta in 1980, whatever, 81 was because the Bengalis, I hesitate to say the Bengalis because as the Bengalis say, I am a non-Bengali. You know, you can go anywhere in the world and you can be Indian, you can be Maharashtrian. No one will say you're a non-Maharashtrian. Like the Bengalis will say you're a non-Bengali. So I feel a little apprehensive criticizing them. But I feel more like a Bengali than a lot of Bengalis I know do. So I'm going to take the liberty of, while expressing myself, that I'm going to be talking like a Bengali at the moment, not like a Sindhi residing in Bengal. Before I left for Bombay, about being late, I don't think I ever did a meeting. There was always a reason for the other person not to show up. Why be late? I mean, why show up at all? And the thing was, dude, I'm sure everybody has a smattering of Bengali, which was, apni eta amar jonne kore deben? Will you do this for me? The answer was hobena. Sorry, hobena. Hobena was the driving, hardly driving, motivating, but you know what I mean. It was what ruled the Bengali professional world. And my heart hurts to say this, but I think that could be one of the reasons why industries sort of started flowing out of Calcutta. There's this marvelous line which I was reminded of recently, where the worker, the guy in the office, I'll translate as I said, he says, Kaj korchi maine pai, that I work so I get my salary. I'm in a job so I get my salary. Kaj korte, overtime chai. If I have to work, then I want overtime. So that was pretty much what was happening. And so when we went for a holiday, my wife and I went for a holiday, came to Bombay for a holiday. Her parents were here then and we never went back. Never went back. Things just worked over here. And it was in Bombay. Bombay was a city that had a work ethic that we could relate to. And so we actually never went back. Actually, I went back to pack a trunk. It took her 1 day to get a job. It took me 1 week to get a job. And we just never went back after that. So that was the difference. Now, 30 plus years later, I'm thrilled that I'm back in Calcutta. Because things happen. Hobena is not in the vocabulary. It is definitely cheshta korbo, we'll try. But it's a remarkable improvement from Hobena. And we'll try, and they do try, and by and large, we get our work done. So that's my take on 35 years and being away from Bengal, going back to Bengal. I think that is what I find. I don't know if the people who move back with me to Calcutta will agree with me on that, but that's what I think.
Madhuri, what's your take on the personal resistance probably that Sir had been referring to, that professionally and personally there is a resistance towards work, towards following your heart, probably, is there?
I've never lived in Calcutta, so I mean, I can't really, But I have spent 3-4 years of my professional life in Delhi. And what he's describing in Calcutta pretty much duplicates in Delhi, where it's, everyone's pretty chill and it's like, when's the next meal? Oh, it's lunchtime. Okay, let's go kind of thing. So, no, I've not really, because I've been professionally in Mumbai, which I think looks very, very professional compared to the to the rest of the country, probably. I mean, I don't know.
I remember before, we used to have 4-hour lunches at this place called Olympia on Park Street. We'd be there 1 hour before lunch and 3 hours after, and stroll toddle into the office around 4 o'clock and then start working if we felt like it. That culture has changed. Olympia is by and large empty at lunchtime these days. It's crowded in the evening, but at lunchtime it's kind of empty. And I think that's a great change that's taking place. I can only, of course, talk about the milieu that I lived in. I can't talk about Calcutta or at large. But yeah.
No, actually, with what you said, I thought that I, being a Bengali, I'm completely exposed. But with what she said, I can very safely say that Delhi is worse. Which again is probably a Bengali trait that we push behind things.
But every Bengali I've met in Bombay works very hard. I mean, very, very hard. Especially in the film business and the music business and the even in the advertising. I mean, they work their butts off. And why is it? And of course, then I get this complaint about the Marathis who don't work in Maharashtra. But why? How come they're so successful when they go to America? Yeah. It's something about, I think, this ethnic thing that you, in Calcutta, I have to tell you this. I'm sorry, I'm hogging the mic like this, my apologies. I mentioned this, I think, in one of my books, I'm not sure, one of the 2 books, I'm not sure, is my father's landlord shut his shop down and gave the place to my father and said, you take it for 10 rupees rent or something. I'm talking about a long time ago. My father said, but what will you do? And he said, what do you mean, what will I do? I said, no, you can't just shut your shop. What will you do for a living? And he said, working for a living. And that's so vulgar, And he had a reason for this. There is a reason that by and large Bengalis think that working for a living is vulgar, because the land is so fertile there. Yaar, tu do chawal boom karke. I don't need to work. Let the rice grow. Let my thoughts grow. I'll write poetry. I'll become a writer. I'll think about beautiful things. Working for a living, God, how vulgar can you be? So sometimes I miss that, yeah. It's impractical, but I miss it.
Once in Bangalore, this happened to me, that there was this bus, and one guy was running from the other side, asking, the bus just stopped in the stand. And there was this guy who came from the other side asking, to be. He was asking about the bus number. And there was this guy sitting on the window. He just watched him very indifferently and said, to be or not to be, that is the question. The bus went away. So the guy, I was standing in the bus stand and watching the guy right there howling curses. But then I guess this kind of thing happens in very, sudden moments at the spur of the moment. And that is the pulse of the city, I guess.
There was a time in Calcutta when they first introduced minibuses. Only graduates were allowed to drive or work on minibuses. And because there was a bad times were there and there weren't enough jobs for graduates. And so you had these conductors who were very well read. And so he walks up to this guy and says, ticket. So this rather posh Bengali gentleman who perhaps mispronounced the word that day, he gave him money and he says, Elgin Road, as opposed to Elgin Road, He said, I'm going to Elgin Road. So the conductor took the money and said, Jud Jord, really? Yeah. So that's the side of the, yeah.
Madhuri, I have heard that monsoon takes a very important role in your writing. Is that true?
No, I wouldn't say that. No, not really. But I have started out with a romance novel, so I think a lot of people think that I probably can talk a little more about that. Romance as it is today, again, is very different from the way it used to be. So my first novel, which was called Pink Champagne, was a romance set in the U.S. And the second one, called Manhattan Mango, was also set in the US. And that is about, young people in a very, our generation, my generation, I don't know if I would even call it romance. It's so quick. Things move so fast. You finish one relationship and you're on to the next. So what is so romantic about that, That's something to us. But it is romance, I suppose, 21st century, of Gen Y and, the next generation. But yeah, Monsoon, I did one novel which was set in Goa. And very interestingly, I have this heroine. It's like the Gulmohars in peak summer, and it's really, really hot. Goa gets really hot in summer. And then, I don't know why subconsciously, when the rains come is when she meets this guy. I think it was just me talking about the rains, She meets this guy and the romance blooms and all. But why didn't it happen in summer? I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I think it's just so into your psyche that romance is rain. So perhaps there's a connection.
Whatever you just say, it brings me to a very important discussion that romance changes even half a generation. The definition of romance is very different. The perception of romance is very different. So does that restrict us authors with the audience we are trying to cater to? When I write, do I write for an audience which will understand what I am talking about? But beyond that or after that, someone who is half a generation before me or half a generation after me feels absolutely disconnected? Do you feel that forward?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, because when I started writing, I was already touching 50. So for me to identify with... So how old do you think I'm now? So, for me to identify with the younger generation was not easy, especially for a writer to sound contemporary. But fortunately for me, I've got two daughters who fitted the target I was wanting to talk to. Because I didn't want to do a romance for 50-somethings. I mean, it didn't make sense. So the daughters had some great contributions when it came to telling me, Mom, nobody does that. Mom, you can just, people hook up after 2 meetings. It's okay. He can sleep with her. It's not a big deal. And I'm like, really? I mean, that soon? So, it's like, it's such a different perspective, and everybody has it different. I mean, the same person young in a more conservative city in India could be saying, no, it doesn't happen. In Mumbai or wherever, you could be saying, yes, it happens. So I think everyone's take on romance is so unique. What's romantic for me may not be romantic for some. Now, if I listen to Mohammed Rafi, they're like, ew, what are you doing, But for me, Rafi is very romantic, so hello. So, that's interesting how... Yeah, so it's interesting. So as an author who wants to write for younger people, I do run it by my daughters and their friends, and I get some very interesting feedback.
I don't write for an audience.
Okay, so you are writing to fulfill yourself.
I don't write to fulfill myself either.
What is your philosophy, sir, as a
No, I just write. I enjoy writing. I like the business of writing. I like the isolation of writing. I like the... I'm so fond of what I write that I don't give a damn if it's published or not, as long as I enjoy it. And I've been lucky, is the way to say it, that somebody suggested this and I gave it to him and it worked, and then Nipon could hear, picked up the other one, and but I wouldn't begin to be able to describe an audience for my writing. I'm amazed that anybody reads it at all, but I'm quite happy where it works. But you were talking about young love and things like that. Since I don't know why you don't write about middle-aged love. It could be fun. But I want to tell you a little story. There's a...
One sec. Fun for whom? For the younger lot or for the middle-aged lot?
For both. Why not? You know, that's where the young lot are going, ultimately.
You know, I have a middle-aged love screenplay which I've been trying to sell for the last 10 years, and Bollywood tells me no one's going to watch it, don't bother.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't make it for Bollywood. My son worked on a screenplay and actually made the film about 60-year-old, took a couple of us in the 60s, and of course it hasn't worked, but my God, it's a great film, you know. So, but anyway, getting back to what I was saying before, I don't, you know, we're talking about nostalgia and now you talk about love. And one of my favorite books was Simone Signoret, the actor from France. She was one of the fine. She got an Academy Award for Room at the Top in 1959 when I was just 10 or something like that. And she was married to Yves Montand. Yeah, and God, I've lost the train of thought now. Yeah, her definition of love was something that I found really remarkable. And she wrote this, I think, in 1978, when she was well into her 70s or 80s or whatever, 80s. And she said that somebody told her, you know, Marilyn Monroe is in love with Yves Montand. And she said, what do you want me to do about it? Get angry? All I can do is, I admire her taste. I am so in love with him that she must be doing the right thing, you know. So there's that kind of love at that age, which is also something to write about. And then I must tell you about what Yves Montand's reply to that was. He said, at my age, in a marriage, a man can have an affair twice, or maybe thrice. More than that, that's cheating.
Okay. See, nostalgia, I understand, is something which is very different from memory. Memory is something, nostalgia is something else. Now, my next question comes from this particular point, that we are constantly bruised by the kind of things that we go through in our lives, and that shapes our personality, the author's personality. We are conservative to a certain extent, romantic to a certain extent, irrelevant to a certain extent. Now, when we write our books, when we shape our characters, if a character demands, which often happens, if a character demands that that character is nowhere close to our personalities, or we don't identify with that character, how easy or how difficult does it become?
No, I think it's very easy because you're putting yourself in that character's shoes. So it doesn't matter how far that person is from your own personality. Like when I wrote, you know, and the protagonist was a young guy for Manhattan Mango, three young guys, not one. And people said, oh, you know, people actually asked me, so how could you write about these young guys who are in New York, you know, living in Manhattan? It's like to say, oh, and you're this older lady who, you know, wouldn't understand what's happening. But no, they're humans. I mean, you know, they have the same emotions, the same ups and downs, you know. Nothing's really different. Okay, they're, you know, end of the day, it's the same life that everyone's living, you know. I mean, that's the way I see it.
Actually, I forgot the question. Sorry, what?
I say that nostalgia comes from your, your memories, or the chain of events that you go through constantly shapes your character, your personality, and you pick up your traits from there. So, does that impair you as an author while writing your characters? Your personal limitations?
No. I'm going to keep it short. No. I do not. My experiences are not. My characters are other people. Their experiences are their experiences. Their memories are their memories. I might create some memories for them, but it's them. I'm very detached from the people. Of course, I love them after I've written about them, but I'm very detached from them while writing about them, because they lead lives in my mind that I would never have the courage to lead. you know. So they're completely different people, and more power to them. And later on, when I pick up 1 year later, I read about this character. I said, I couldn't have written this, you know.
Does that detachment happen with you?
In fact, the other very interesting thing I find, in fact, is even with multiple characters, I never know what they're going to do. When I start writing a novel, I honestly do not know what they're going to do. And then they just seem to start doing their own thing, and I'm just writing. So sometimes I'm like, you know, who's actually working on these characters? Because I'm not doing it. When one interacts with another, a third thing is happening, and it's happening automatically. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably the way it should happen. I think they're doing the right thing. But if you ask me, like, you know, then what happens next? I won't have an answer. And this is, I really mean it. Seriously, I don't know what happens next.
What you say is probably that your conscious and subconscious are two different personalities. Do you? No, you don't have to be that, because what you said happens with me as well, that I have no clue. I just know the first few lines of the story that I write, and after that it happens, things keep happening by themselves. Sir, what is your process of writing? Is it, does the story write itself, or you have the entire premise in mind before you start?
No, I'll tell you how I write. I take a sheet of paper and I lift a pen. That's how I write. There's no plan. There's no nothing. Yeah, there's a one-line story, as in Cantilever Tales. It's a young middle-class Bengali boy against a big builder. But again, that's just the hook on which I have hung all these marvelous characters that are there. So, you know, that's just this one line. And then on that one line you hang all these people who make the end happen. But if you, it's available, by the way, published by Readomania and all bookshops around the country. It's called Cantilever Tales. Thank you. Needed a little commercial there, commercial break. So, you know, yeah, that's it. You have to sit. That's the process. At least I think you have to sit at that damn table. Whether you produce shit or not, you have to sit at that damn table. And at the end of it, you look at what you've got, and it's so easy, right? After you've done the pen work and you put it onto the machine, there your first edit is done. And then you look at it and say, it sucks. And it's so easy. You just drag it down to the trash bin and start again. You know? You know, life is like that now, thank God. But when you want to keep it and refer to it later, there's another little thing, which, you know, you hit this little minus mark and minimizes and goes on the left over here and waits for you to attack it the next morning. I just love doing that. But you have to sit at the desk. That's the process. You can't say, हाँ लिख देंगे यार, then, you know, हाँ लिख देंगे यार, और 4 दिन के बाद मेरा writer's block हो रहा है. No, it's not writer's block. It's sheer laziness.
Can't agree more. The first line of your book is actually a very big hook point. I just picked it up, read the first line, and asked the guy to pack it.
Yeah, no, that was meant to be the title of the book, because the whole book was based on that line, which I heard in a bus. So yeah, so dear, your little boy's here. Otherwise, you know, this guy's stuck in a traffic jam in a bus, and he's a government employee, and it's the Howrah Bridge. Oh dear, and he says, "Eta key. What is this? Howrah Bridge or Lyer Bridge? You know, which is this Howrah Bridge or Cock Up Bridge? I don't know. You know what he means. But yeah, that was supposed to be the title of the book. Then better sense prevailed. And
So I think I have been given a time ultimatum. Would the audience like to ask anything? Any question from the audience? Otherwise, we will continue with our...
yeah, she's there.
Is there?
Actually, I'm quite excited to be facing you because I've been watching you since your debut on Indian television.
Oh, thank you.
So yes, my
I have a distinct advantage over this lady.
yes, you do. One of my first crushes. So yes, and I happened to spend quite some time in Calcutta also. I had that time it was still Calcutta. I had 2 postings there. I'm an ex-army officer myself, and more than a question, it's more like an incident, like Hobena. So army in ordnance we have lots of civilians also. So you say something to a civilian that you do something, his first reply is this, Hobena. And the same thing then you give to a Fauji, and within half an hour it is done. Right. But then like you said, it's lot has changed. I went there in December and I went to my old depot. Of course, there nothing has changed because it's a government thing. But city-wise, a lot has changed. But would you say, sir, the character of the city has changed in any way? Because Calcutta always had a character of its own, compared to I've been to so many places in India, not only cities, vague places also posted there. But Calcutta, I found, had a character all its own, which no other city could emulate. So, do you think that the character has undergone a change in any manner?
Dramatically and for the better. Definitely. I said this earlier on, that when I went back to Calcutta, I found there was a distinct change. Things happen nowadays in Calcutta which didn't. There's always something to hurl brickbats at. Like, you're standing at a traffic light and you hear Rabindra Sangeet suddenly, because that's supposed to be the. That's mildly irritating. But by and large, Calcutta is a much improved place. Much improved. In fact, I'm having difficulty now writing about Calcutta because I have nothing to complain about.
I'd like to ask you, Mr. Jayant Kripalani, why did you write this book? Why did you write the book?
Why did I write the book?
Yeah. Was there a message you wanted to convey? Was it a walk down memory lane?
No, messages. I write letters or send SMSs, or my books have no messages at all in them. There is no message. Enjoy it. These are some are nostalgic little pieces, some are whimsical little pieces. The characters that I write about can be charming on the one hand and extremely cruel on the other. There are no messages. I am not. Please, no, that's not my job. That's really not my job. That's somebody's. Who sits at the head of the country and sends Twitters to people. That's his job. That's not my job. My job is to write books. Sending messages up there from Delhi.
Actually, I think most of the authors write because they have this bubbling information or bubbling thing happening with a story inside their brain which will burst if not written out.
I must tell you, that's an absolute lie when it comes to describing me. Yes, absolutely. Please, I'll tell you, I started writing because for 1 year I was not supposed to do anything hectic after my heart attack. So I sat and I wrote. That is the reason. There is no other reason.
No, I became an author when I was pregnant with this one, and the restriction is very, very depressing. So my first book is an academic book, marketing book with Shahrukh as case study. So I thought someone or the other will definitely write one day because Shahrukh is a great marketing case study by himself. No one wrote, so I wrote.
Okay.
So are we? Fair enough. So any other question from the audience? Yes,
The title of today's discussion was Rain's Nostalgia, Betrayal and Romance. But I think betrayal was a topic we didn't really touch upon. Can both the speakers talk about that? How does that fit into these 4 sentiments?
अरे आप खबर कागज खोलिए ना रोज सुबह बिट्रेयल तो हो ही रहा है यार और क्या लिखेंगे उसके बारे में, हाँ? It's every news item, every headline is a betrayal of everything. So writing about it is really not.
And so is life.
No, life's a bitch, not necessarily betrayal.
It's far worse.
Hmm. Oh yeah, I'll teach him some more.
Yeah. I
Aura-
have to now
aura
go
is a
home and
very good word,
brainwash him.
aura,
What did you hear? But no, I think this was a very, very interesting session. I may have come late, but those who must have heard it from the beginning, when the volunteer guy called me up, I heard that you were introducing yourself, and I was almost banging my head in the car gear.
No, it was great that you made
It
it.
was really sportive
Thanks
of
a
you
lot.
guys. Thank you so much to have taken it forward and not stopped. And sincerely, my gratitude to both of you for being
And
so
thank you,
cooperative.
all you guys, for sitting patiently and listening to us rabbit on about our books. Yeah.